achievers, goal-getters, and relentless visionaries who are hell-bent on success without burnout stealing your spark. Welcome to the one place where freedom and fulfillment aren't optional. They're the standard. Here, we know that balance, it's bullshit. We are all about burnout-proof systems that don't suck, bold goals backed by smarter hustle, and unapologetically building a life where you're doing what you love and loving how you do it. I'm Ellen Shinky. Welcome to the Burnout-Proof Podcast. Hey there, achievers, and welcome back to another kick-ass new episode of the Burnout-Proof Podcast. Today, I want to actually kick things off by painting a picture for you, okay? Let's say it's Monday morning. You've got coffee. You're ready to dive into all of the things that today entails. But you're already overwhelmed trying to figure out where to even start. If that is an experience that sounds familiar to you, we need to talk about planning. In particular, planning differently. Today, we're going to be talking about how to burnout-proof plan out your schedule, your game plan for 2025. And this is one of those things where I feel like how most of us plan is great. Like planning is generally one of, a high achiever's superpower, if you will. But for me and for what I saw in 2024, myself included, I feel like a lot of us are falling into a sort of planning trap. And that planning trap is that we had these big, beautiful goals, but we didn't strategically lay out a plan for what we were going to work on when and what that work entailed. And what ended up happening as a result of that is we unintentionally ended up working on too many things at once. If this is you, raise your hand. I'm not calling you out again because I did this too. This was a guilty as charged moment for me where I feel like I had these beautiful kind of like empire building visions for 2024, but strategically when it got down to it, I ended up not pre-planning enough. And I ended up working on a bunch of different things simultaneously. Like a good example of that is, let's say I wanted to I launched System School this past fall. That's my DIY course to teach you basically all of the tech in your business, how to use Notion for project management, how to set up automations, how to, do SEO in your business, how to use AI effectively. That's what System School was. And I will tell you right now, launching System School was chaos. It was absolute chaos. And the reason for that is because this is kind of a what not to do. And then I'm going to tell you a what to do instead. The reason why System School's launch was absolute chaos this year was because of the fact that I was launching, marketing, and recording and creating all of the content for System School all at the same time. It was so much. And I think part of what was really challenging about it is my brain had to be in so many different modes simultaneously. I was in like coaching and content creation and like recording mode. I was in like the creative behind the scenes mode simultaneously while I was in the marketing mode and the launching mode. And this is not an effective place to be in. I'll tell you right now, I would not wish that, and I would not advise anybody to launch and create that way ever, because it was mentally taxing. It was overwhelming. And I just this is, I think, part of the reason why so many of us hate launching in our businesses is because it feels like chaos, right? So this is what that launch experience was like. And now what I want to teach you is I want to teach you a shift that I'm doing to help me plan for 2025 that I think is going to help you avoid this trap, because this is really why we need pre-planning, so that we don't end up having to do 80,000 different projects simultaneously, to be in, wearing 80,000 different hats simultaneously in our business, so that we can have more freedom, more flow, etc. And a lot of this, I'm going to actually be kind of taking you behind the scenes of what we've been doing in CEO Bootcamp. This is something I've been a part of. It's a program that my girl Kelsey Knutson is running. And this program, I feel like, is teaching me how to be a CEO in my business. And I love it because it's really, and it's also kind of in some ways been validating, because so much of what she does is very, very similar to what I do. But with the planning side of things, there's a tweak that she makes in how she plans that blows my mind. And honestly, I have never felt such clarity and such confidence going into a new year in my business ever. Now, business owner or not, I think you can benefit from this idea of planning, but this is for my CEOs out there, for my people who are building businesses. This is really going to help. But honestly, this is also just a better way to project manage. So like even if you aren't a business owner, even if you are a corporate employee and you're just trying to game plan your own personal goals or, your career aspirations for 2025, trust me when I say this is going to make a big difference. And the idea behind this is to simply get more granular and do a little bit more pre-planning. So I want to tell you the ways in which I'm planning 2025 that are different. And that honestly, I think are going to create such a burnout-proof structure for me that I cannot wait to implement. Like honestly, it's going to be game-changing. So the first step of this process was for me to lay out my vision for next year. What do I want my next year to look like? What's the lifestyle I want to have? What's the kind of income revenue goals? Like to really just make a vision from 2025. And the next step from that, and this is kind of a place where maybe I tweaked the process of a little bit, is we did this great visioning. And then what I did from there is I actually extracted from that vision what some objectives were and what some projects were. This is like how I did it. I took my entire vision that we did and I plugged the entire thing into ChatGPT, and I had ChatGPT extract what are the kind of overarching objectives and what are the projects that are going to help support these objectives. And then this is where, because we can't be fully reliant on ChatGPT makes some mistakes. I had to go in and do a little bit of zhuzhing. So I found my overarching objectives. I found my overarching projects. And then what I started to do is I started to break those projects down even further. So like, for example, one of the overarching objectives, and I'm literally, for those of you who are watching the video, I'm like pulling up my Notion kind of game plan for this. Some of the overarching objectives were things like scale, core offers, and revenue. So that was like one of the overarching objectives that I came up with. And some of the projects underneath that were to create some of my new products and services that I'm offering, to create marketing plans, to update System School, to update my Notion template for 2025 and Black Friday. Like I literally laid out everything. I laid out every single thing I was going to be launching, when I was going to be launching it, and the support projects underneath it. So I kind of had ChatGPT extract everything. I decided when those things were going to best fit into my schedule for next year. And then I even more granularly broke out each of those things. So that was kind of the first step. Take the vision, break it out into projects, and then roughly assign where each of those projects and launches, et cetera, was going to fit into my year. So for example, I'm going to be launching something in June of next year that is meant to serve my corporate people, my corporate employees, especially for, a company. Like literally, I want it to be a situation where like you don't even have to pay for it. For those of you who are in corporate, I want it to be something that, your company pays for it, and it is a support service for you that your company is paying for. So I'm working on creating this offer, and I want to launch it in June. But again, to avoid what happened last year with System School, I don't want to be doing all of the creation of the service, coming up with my marketing plan, creating all of the materials for my marketing, and doing the launch in June. That's what I did for System School. It sucked. I don't want to do it again. So instead, this is kind of how Kelsey shifted my thinking about this. And what I mean when I say pre-planning and getting very, very granular is I backtracked. I knew I wanted to launch in June. So I thought of all of the things that have to happen for that launch. Well, first and foremost, the product itself has to be created. So that's project number one, is to create the offer. That's one project. And underneath that, underneath the project of create the offer, I need to brainstorm, what is the content that's going to go into the offer, brainstorm in detail all of the different things that are going to go into each video. So like it's brainstorming what the videos are. It's then breaking down what goes into each of those videos. It might then be creating a slide deck to support the content in the video. And then it's going to be recording the video. So for each and every video, I have to outline, I have to create slides, and I have to record. That's just for the creating of the offer. Then what I also need to do is I need to create a marketing plan. So I need to decide how I'm going to market it, what steps I'm going to take to market, what content I'm going to need to market it. If I'm going to do like a masterclass or whatever, I need to create the marketing plan. So that's one project. And then underneath that project, I need to create all of the support materials that are going to go into that marketing plan. So you can see like for each of those, it's the project and then it's all of the details underneath it. And then those 2 projects have to be done prior to my launch. Now, this is another thing that I was thinking about as I was going through this. I want to launch it in June, but generally speaking, I like to have kind of a light month for my birthday. My birthday's in May. So I don't want to be doing all of this creation and all of this creating marketing materials in May. So how I've laid it out is I'm going to create the offer in March. That's going to be my big project for March, is to actually create this offer. And then in April, I'm going to create the marketing plan. And then in May, all I have to do is like execute the marketing plan. I could probably even schedule it all out ahead of time, so I don't need to do anything in May if I don't really want to. So this is the pre-planning. This is what I mean when I say getting granular, is deciding what needs to be done and then deciding when you're going to do it. And it's blowing my mind how freaking organized I feel right now going into 2025. So this is the shift. Doing these granular brain dumps for every single project you've got on the schedule for 2025, every single offer, every single big goal that I'm working on in 2025, I've done a massive brain dump of every single step that needs to happen. Like, we're talking hyper detailed micro steps here. And this way, nothing gets forgotten or left to chance. And I have a very, very clear picture of what I'm working on. And if I'm putting too much on my plate, which is what I ran into in 2024, I was trying to do too many projects simultaneously. I didn't make this granular game plan. So then I constantly felt like I was behind, and I constantly felt like I wasn't doing enough. It's almost like I'm going into 2025 having complete clarity on where I have extra time and where I don't, and I shouldn't say yes to anything else. And that, I think, is what makes this sort of a planning so burnout proof for 2025. So I did these granular brain dumps. And then the next step that I also did, and this I think really helps you get clarity on how much time you have, is strategic calendar blocking. So like, once I've got all of my steps laid out, I'm blocking out specific days on my calendar for focused work on those steps, not just like marketing or client work, but like exactly what needs to get done on each of those days. So like, think I have a block of time, and I tend to do like 2 to 3 hours because otherwise I feel like I can't get into focus mode, where I might be like, okay, this is the day to finalize my Notion template, or this is the day to map out social media for the launch. That's kind of what those blocks of time then look like on my calendar. And I'm not necessarily doing this all ahead of time, because you might be listening to this going, Ellen, that is a shit ton of stuff for me to do over the course of the next 2 weeks, especially if I want to have like a break over the holiday. What I'm actually doing is I'm kind of roughing all of this out, doing all of these brain dumps now. And then I'm kind of spending time at the start of each month where I'm aligning my game plan with my yearly goals. So like, I know what projects I'm working on what month. I've kind of already done the brain dumps and like done the granular breaking it down. But what I'm doing, and I think this is where the magic happens, is I'm taking those micro steps and I'm mapping them to my yearly goals. And then every single month, I'll be reviewing what needs to be tackled and aligning my weekly schedule accordingly. So like, I'm going to sit down at the start of the month and I'm going to say, okay, I've got this block of time already in my schedule. I'm going to spend that block of time doing X. That's going to help me move this project forward. So like in January, I'm going to spend a block of time recording videos. And then I'm going to spend a block of time, maybe the week before that, creating the slide decks for those videos. So at the start of each month is when I'm going to go through and decide what my blocks of time in my calendar are going to be used for. This, I feel like, ensures that I'm always making progress on the big picture items, that I'm not just spinning my wheels on busy work, but simultaneously, it also gives me a really, really clear picture on what months are going to be tight, what months I maybe can't necessarily say yes to that like extra workshop or, to the extra speaking engagement. Maybe it gives me a very, very clear picture of which months I have a little bit more flexibility and which months I really, really don't. So in terms of the tools that you might need to support this, first and foremost, you really just need a project management tool. Obviously, Notion is my go-to. Everything for me lives in Notion. My brain dumps, my project timelines, my tasks list, it's my second brain. You guys know this about me. And it's where all the magic happens inside of my world. So it's not sticky notes, it's not scattered Google Docs, it's everything is inside of Notion. So I did all of my brain dumps and kind of my laying out of the schedule in there. And then Google Calendar is really the other piece of the puzzle. So I'm using Google Calendar to time block. this is kind of where the action happens. So once the tasks are mapped out in Notion, I plug them into Google Calendar. It's color-coded, it's clear, and it just helps me keep track of what I'm working on when. So this is the system. This is how to have a burnout-proof game plan for 2025. So you're not overcommitting yourself, but you're also making sure you are doing enough pre-planning so that you have that clarity and that confidence to know that everything's getting done and everything's getting done in a way that isn't going to overwhelm you. Okay. So one kind of bonus tip I will say with this to kind of make sure you're keeping this alive is first and foremost to make sure that you are doing that monthly goal mapping step. I think that's one really important step. So at the beginning of each month, kind of laying out what you're going to work on when. So maybe that's putting your blocks of time in your calendar. Maybe that is just that's assigning the tasks to those blocks of time, whatever. But I think that monthly kind of goal mapping is really important. And I think the second piece of it is to make sure that you are keeping your goals and your priorities top of mind. So like each weekly review I have the same goals on that page. Each monthly review I have the same goals on that page. So I'm constantly reminding myself of these are the focuses for this month. This is what I need to get done. Okay. So to kind of wrap this up, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, yes, Ellen, I need this system in my life, but you don't necessarily have those systems in place for you. Firstly, I've got you covered. Okay. I have a VIP day spot left in December. I have 2 left in January. And these are designed to help you build out the exact systems you need in Notion that are tailored to your business and your goals. Okay. So I've got $1,500 off VIP days through December 31st, or you can get a 2 for $5K VIP day package, which actually might be really, really great with what we're talking about, because maybe one VIP day helps you build out the system, and then the second actually helps you hash out your goals. Okay. So if that's something you want, I've got a link below in the show notes to book your spot, or you can always shoot me a DM on Instagram and we can chat if this is a good option for you. Okay. I want us to make 2025 the year we crush our goals, and we do it without burning out and without overwhelming ourselves in the process. So that's why we're talking this burnout-proof planning process. So there you have it. That is kind of the gist of this message today. We can plan burnout-free for 2025. And we can kind of realize that it's not about doing more. It's not even necessarily about shifting too much about the ways in which we already plan, because we're achievers and this is one of our superpowers. Really, the only shift we're making is getting more granular, doing a little bit more pre-planning. So when butt hits office chair, we know exactly what needs to be done. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If it resonated with you, please go ahead and go on Spotify, give us a follow, or head to Apple and give us a 5-star review. And with that, my friends, stay relentless achievers, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.